Why men love to kiss down there. The number one secret women after 60 must know.
Welcome to Wise Life After 60. So grateful to have you here. Have you ever wondered why so many men love to kiss you in the most sensitive place? It's a question many women over 60 still feel shy asking, even in long-term relationships. Some feel embarrassed, others feel confused, and many simply stay silent. But the truth is far more meaningful than most people realize. This intimate act is not just about physical pleasure or desire. For many mature men, it is an emotional language, a way of expressing devotion, admiration, and deep connection. It is one of the few moments where he feels completely present with you, without roles, expectations, or performance. Many women assume men do it only for their own satisfaction, but scientific research and real-life experience show the opposite. A man does this because it brings him closer to you emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It lets him care, give, and cherish you in a way words cannot. In this video, I want to gently explore why men truly love doing this, why women after 60 deserve to understand it more clearly, the surprising benefits for your health, your emotional well-being, and your relationship, and the single biggest mistake that keeps many women from enjoying this beautiful moment. If you find conversations like this meaningful, I'd be grateful if you like this video and subscribe to Wise Life After 60 so we can keep walking this journey together. And if you're ready, let's begin this conversation together. The hidden desire. Let me tell you a secret most men will never say out loud, not even to the woman they love. I've lived long enough to notice something about men, especially men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. They may speak confidently about life, work, or the world, but when it comes to intimacy, the deepest truths stay tucked away behind a quiet, unspoken tenderness. And one of those hidden truths is this: many men feel a powerful desire to kiss a woman in the most sensitive part of her body, not for conquest or performance, and certainly not because of some youthful fantasy, but because it allows them to give something meaningful without expecting anything in return. I've heard countless women whisper the same question: why does he love doing that so much? And from everything I've seen, felt, and learned, the real answer is far more human and far more emotional than people assume. For a mature man, this intimate moment isn't about chasing excitement. It's about offering care in the most vulnerable way he knows. When he lowers himself to that tender place, he is telling you quietly, "You are still beautiful to me," and "I want to bring you joy," and "I desire you with the same sincerity I felt in the beginning." Men at this stage of life aren't driven by impulse. They're drawn by affection, gratitude, and the longing to feel close to the woman they cherish. They understand that this part of your body holds emotional electricity, softness, and a kind of sacred vulnerability. And by touching it with intention, he isn't simply awakening sensation, he is awakening presence, connection, in the feeling of being deeply cherished. Someone once said that a man kneels only in front of what he respects or loves, and in these quiet moments, that truth becomes impossible to ignore. But desire is only the beginning. Deeper meaning awaits when we look closer. The emotional bond. What if I told you that this intimate act isn't about pleasure at all, but about belonging? As I've grown older,
I've realized that a man's desire to kiss a woman in her most private place comes from a place far deeper than the surface of the skin. It becomes a language he cannot speak with words. When a man reaches this stage of life, he begins to care less about performance and more about presence. He wants to feel connected, grounded, and needed. And intimacy, especially this kind of intimacy, becomes the quiet doorway that leads him there. When he brings his attention to the most tender part of your body, he isn't judging it, comparing it, or analyzing it. He's honoring it. In his mind, this space isn't something to observe from a distance. It's something to approach with care. It's a gesture that whispers, "I'm here," even before he says a single word. And when you allow yourself to soften, when your breathing shifts ever so gently and your body responds to his closeness, something inside him settles. He feels connected in a way that reassures him he still matters. He feels meaningful again, relevant again, like he still has a place in your world. For many couples in their 60s and 70s, this single moment of closeness has revived long-dormant emotions, not because the act itself is magical, but because it dissolves distance. It breaks the invisible walls that time, routine, and silence quietly build between two people. And sometimes I wonder, have you ever felt that kind of emotional closeness with someone? If you have, or even if you're still searching for it, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your story may help another woman feel less alone. Life has a gentle way of showing us that intimacy is not something we age out of. It's something we grow into. And yet, even the sweetest closeness can be shaken by the insecurities women face later in life, which is where the next part of our journey begins.
The confidence struggle. It's remarkable how a woman can age with wisdom, yet still carry the same quiet insecurities she had at 20. Among women in their 60s and 70s, a familiar pattern appears. Even those who have lived full, meaningful lives often hesitate when it comes to intimacy. They worry about changes in the skin, about dryness, about scent, about whether their bodies still feel inviting. These concerns settle into the mind slowly, but once they take root, they can influence every moment of closeness. Interestingly, research shows a very different reality from what many women imagine. A study from the University of Michigan revealed that older women tend to judge their own bodies far more harshly than their partners do. Cultural messages from earlier decades linger stubbornly, whispering that intimacy belongs to youth. Yet when men were asked how they saw their partners, the descriptions were filled with admiration, gratitude, and emotional warmth, not criticism. The contrast is striking. A conversation from years ago still stays with me. A man who had been married for over 40 years spoke about his wife's recent discomfort with intimacy. She believed age had taken away her appeal and began withdrawing from closeness. While she focused on lines and changes, he focused on memories and connection. He said that her distance hurt far more deeply than any physical change ever could, because it made him feel unnecessary, almost unwanted in the relationship. Men notice very different things than women fear they do. They are not examining details or searching for imperfections. What they respond to is the woman they love and whether she lets herself be close to him. Pulling away, even gently, creates a quiet ache that many men never fully express.
The physical benefits. What if the very thing you feel shy about is quietly healing your body in ways you never imagined? In later life, the body speaks more softly, yet its needs become clearer. Many women think of intimacy as something emotional or relational, but the body itself responds with a kind of quiet gratitude when it is touched with care. What a man does in that tender moment is not merely affectionate. It stimulates warmth, circulation, and comfort in an area that often grows tense or neglected with age. This gentle attention encourages the tissues to soften, the muscles to relax, and the natural rhythms of your body to awaken again. There is something profoundly calming about receiving this kind of closeness. The breathing slows, the shoulders drop, the mind becomes lighter, and a sense of calm spreads from the inside out. Women who have rediscovered this connection in their 60s and 70s often describe a renewed sense of vitality, almost as if their bodies remember a part of themselves they believed had faded. The effects do not end in the moment. Many feel more rested, more grounded, and more emotionally steady even hours afterward. For a man, offering this kind of tenderness is meaningful. It reassures him that he can still bring comfort, that he still has a place in the relationship, that his presence matters to the woman he loves. The act is not about thrill, but about giving the body what it has quietly needed for years. Since this is such a delicate topic, I'm genuinely curious. How do you feel about the idea of intimacy benefiting not just your heart, but also your physical well-being? If you feel comfortable sharing, your perspective in the comments might encourage another woman to see her body with more kindness. As we move forward, there is another layer we cannot ignore, one shaped not by the body, but by beliefs carried across generations. Overcoming shame. Shame has a way of settling into a woman's life so quietly that she often forgets it never belonged to her in the first place. From many women who grew up decades ago, messages about intimacy were shaped by silence, duty, and strict ideas of what was proper. Those old beliefs cling to the mind long after the world has changed. They whisper that pleasure is inappropriate, that certain acts are undignified, or that intimacy should fade with age. These ideas do not come from truth. They come from a culture that once taught women to hide their own bodies from themselves. I remember reading a report from the North American Menopause Society that said women over 60 often carry lingering shame about their intimate areas because of outdated education from the 1960s and 70s. The study explained that the shame was learned, not natural. It was passed from mothers to daughters, from teachers to students, shaping how women felt about themselves without ever asking if those beliefs were fair or healthy. Then there is another example that stays with me. A friend's mother, now in her early 70s, once confessed that she had avoided intimacy for years because she felt too old for such things. When her doctor gently told her that aging does not erase pleasure, she cried from relief. She realized she had lived half her life under a rule no one had ever questioned. And once she let go of that old belief, she began to feel like herself again, lighter and more honest in her own skin. Your intimate body is not something unclean or unworthy. It is simply a part of you, as human and sacred as your hands or your heartbeat. When a woman releases the shame she never chose, she finally steps into a freedom that should have been hers all along. And once that freedom awakens, confidence becomes a companion instead of a struggle, especially when preparing for moments of closeness. Preparation. There comes a time in life when preparation is no longer about impressing someone, but about returning to yourself. In the later chapters of life, a woman's sense of comfort becomes far more important than perfection ever was. When she prepares for intimacy, it is not to prove anything or to meet some invisible standard. It is to feel at ease in her own skin. A quiet bath, a moment with warm water, a gentle scent she loves, or a soft touch to tidy what helps her feel neat and calm. These small rituals are not about appearance. They are about creating the inner peace that allows the body to open instead of guard itself. A man may see only the closeness that follows, but the real transformation begins long before he touches her. It begins when she chooses to care for herself in a way that soothes rather than stresses, comforts rather than criticizes. The mind relaxes, the heart steadies, and the body responds with a softness that cannot be forced. Intimacy at this age becomes less about spark and more about harmony. The environment she creates, the warmth of the room, the softness of the lighting, even the pace of her breathing, all become part of the moment. There is a simple philosophy that has guided many people before us. When the mind feels safe, the body follows. When the spirit feels acknowledged, it stops bracing for disappointment. And when a woman allows herself to ease into the moment instead of rushing or fearing judgment, she begins to experience closeness in a deeper, calmer way than she ever did in her youth. Preparation, then, is not a performance. It is an invitation for tenderness to enter without resistance and for connection to grow without hesitation. And that is only the beginning of what preparation truly offers. The real turning point lies in what comes next, and if you're ready, we can step into it together. The secret to magic. The most powerful moments in intimacy rarely arrive with fireworks. They come quietly, in the places where both people finally stop hurrying. With time, closeness takes on a different shape. It is no longer about technique or performance, but about the presence two people bring into the moment. When a man focuses on the most tender part of your body, what makes the experience unforgettable is not skill, but his willingness to listen. He follows your breath, the softening of your muscles, the small signals that show you are letting the moment unfold rather than guarding yourself from it. Many women discover pleasure after 60 feels deeper, calmer, and more meaningful, not because the body is younger, but because the heart is more honest. There is no pretending, no pressure to impress, no fear of judgment. What remains is a gentle connection that feels grounding and human. An old truth says that wisdom begins when we stop forcing and start allowing. In intimacy, that wisdom becomes a kind of quiet magic. When two people move slowly, trust naturally replaces tension. The body relaxes, the mind opens, and the moment becomes a shared discovery instead of something to achieve. What makes the memory last is not technique, but the courage to slow down and let affection lead the way.
Intimacy does not fade with age. It simply changes shape, becoming softer, calmer, and far more honest. When you understand why a man cherishes this kind of closeness, why your body still responds to tenderness, how preparation brings confidence, and how letting go of old shame frees your spirit, you begin to see that passion after 60 is not smaller, it is deeper. The truth is simple. Age never limits intimacy. It is the beliefs we carry that build the walls. When a woman opens her heart again, communicates without fear, and trusts that she is still worthy of affection, something beautiful happens. She discovers that the years after 60 can hold some of the most meaningful connections two people will ever experience. If this conversation touched you, I'd be grateful if you liked this video and subscribed to Wise Life After 60, so we can continue exploring these gentle truths together.